story begins with a lone swordsman, Jubei Kibagami, walking with his head bowed on a deserted bridge in feudal Japan. In his hand, he holds a rice ball, moving forward like a solitary warrior. As he walks, a group of rogue criminals follows him, their footsteps heavy with malice. Suddenly, a spear strikes the bridge, piercing the wood with terrifying force, stopping mere inches from Jubei's face. Yet he doesn't flinch. His calm remains unbroken. Without even glancing at the attack, he takes another bite of his rice ball as the spear retracts. The criminals leap onto the bridge, grumbling about Jubei interfering in their business, which cost them 300 gold bars. They make it clear they are here for revenge and intend to rob him. One of them threatens Jubei, promising they won't leave empty-handed. Jubei remains unfazed, coolly offering them his half-eaten rice ball as if it's the only thing worth taking. With smirks and drawn weapons, the goons attack. Two charge at him together, but Jubei counters them with ease. Meanwhile, their leader launches a special attack, hoping to overwhelm him. However, Jubei skillfully deflects it, landing a strike that sends the boss crashing out of his suit. Standing half naked, the man watches in horror as his suit and weapon are shredded in seconds. Realization hits him. His group is no match for Jubei's blade. Humiliated, the boss asks if it's true that Jubei was hired by a caravan for only 20 gold to recover a stolen sword. Jubei glances back and replies coolly that he has no interest in swindling 300 gold bars from a caravan on the brink of financial collapse. Meanwhile, under a dark, stormy sky, a group of assassins rides toward a village, their faces hard with sinister intent. The storm mirrors their purpose. Their horses stop at the village entrance. The next morning, a barefoot girl walks through the village, now desolate. The streets are lined with rotting corpses, picked clean by crows. She reaches the entrance and tells two travelers that the villagers are all dead, victims of a mysterious plague. The village highway is temporarily blocked to prevent the epidemic's spread. Word soon reaches the Chamberlain, who learns of a suspicious group seen entering Shimoda Village the night before. The same village now ravaged by the plague. Suspecting these criminals may be behind the disaster, he sends a spy to uncover the truth. The spy, a ninja, gathers his team and formulates a plan based on the Chamberlain's orders. They conclude that the plague was caused by 8 mysterious men. Just then, a female ninja named Kagero enters the meeting room, declaring her intent to join the mission. Determined to find the culprits behind the plague, she insists on being included. Despite initial protests, she convinces the team to accept her. As they travel to Shimoda, Kagero is admired for her beauty, though Hanza, the leader, warns the men to stay focused. One of the group members comments on her stunning looks but pities her for her condition. Hanza then orders him to check on the other teammates who have stopped responding. The man sets out to investigate and soon stumbles upon a horrifying sight. His comrades have all been mysteriously slaughtered. Suddenly, he realizes that the group has been ambushed. One by one, the men are slaughtered by a monstrous, inhuman creature. He tries to warn Hanza, but is assassinated before he can do so. His dying screams alert Hanza and Kagero that something is gravely wrong. As they attempt to escape, they are attacked by the same monstrous being. The creature quickly catches up to Hanza, grabbing hold of him. Hanza's arms are torn from his body, and the creature captures Kagero. In a secluded house, the creature forces himself on Kagero. She struggles, but knowing resistance is futile, she submits while secretly formulating a plan. Concealing a dagger in her sleeve, she waits for the right moment. Just as she is about to strike, Jubei appears out of nowhere and intervenes. The monster threatens Jubei, warning him to stay out of the matter if he values his life. But Jubei confidently steps forward, determined to stop him. Agitated, the creature, revealed to be Tasai, attacks Jubei. Amid the chaos, Kagero and Jubei manage to wound him and escape the nightmarish house. Furious, Tasai attempts to chase them down, but one of his allies halts his pursuit. Meanwhile, Kagero and Jubei part ways after reaching safety. Jubei continues on his journey, seeking new challenges, while Kagero returns to the Chamberlain. She informs him of her entire team's demise during their investigation of the plague. However, the Chamberlain remains indifferent to their deaths and orders her to continue the mission. Unwillingly, she accepts and resumes the investigation. Later, Jubei is ambushed by Tasai, who has now transformed his body into an unbreakable, metallic form. The relentless onslaught forces Jubei into a brutal battle. Though he struggles against Tasai's overwhelming power, he ultimately manages to defeat him. Shortly after, an old man named Dakuan approaches Jubei and proposes an alliance, believing they share a common goal. However, Jubei refuses, leaving Dakuan disappointed. Meanwhile, news of Tasai's death reaches the true mastermind, Genma. Yurimaru, Genma's loyal spy, uses his special techniques to relay the information. Equally responsible for the massacre of the village, Urimaru harbors tension with his fellow devils. One of the female members of this sinister group, Benasato, becomes intrigued by Jubei after learning he killed Desai. She seeks him out while he rests in a hot spring, attempting to seduce him with her alluring presence. However, as Jubei's eyes linger on the snake tattoos covering her body, he realizes something horrifying. They are moving. Before he can react, the tattoos form real, living snakes. Jubei strikes at Benasato, but instead of piercing her flesh, his blade cuts through nothing but a discarded layer of skin, shedding like that of a snake. Dakuan reappears, his presence as menacing as ever. This time, he wields a poison shuriken, its edges gleaming ominously. Without hesitation, he hurls it at Jubei, leaving him no choice but to comply. Forced into an alliance, Jubei reluctantly agrees to work with Dakuan. As their deal is sealed, the two board a small boat, the water gently rocking beneath them. Dakuan begins to unravel the truth behind the sinister events at hand. He speaks of a long-lost gold mine, once discovered by a clan, but secretly taken over by a ruthless group of 8 devils. Though the mine rightfully belongs to the government, the devils have ensured its existence remains unknown. Jubei, intrigued, asks how the devils managed to uncover the mine while the government remained oblivious. Dakuan's expression darkens as he reveals the answer. It was the Yamashiro clan leader who tipped them off. Jubei's mind races, and before Dakuan can continue, a chilling realization strikes him. He mutters Genma's name, his voice laced with disbelief and dread. He was certain that Genma, the man he had killed with his own hands, was gone for good. The idea that he might still be alive gnaws at him, leaving behind a bitter taste of confusion and anger. The weight of this revelation presses heavily on his mind. Dakuan makes it clear that Genma is very much alive. As they arrive at their destination, Dakuan starts making his way forward but suddenly slips and tumbles down the hill. At the bottom, he is ambushed by one of the devils, who launches a Shijima claw attack at him. Dakuan dodges and quickly camouflages himself among the trees. Meanwhile, Jubei finds himself confronted by another devil. Searching for clues, he enters a temple and discovers an old woman praying, but as he approaches, she suddenly transforms into a swarm of snakes. In an instant, the entire room is writhing with them. Benasato emerges from the shadows, ready to strike. But before she can land the killing blow, Kagero bursts in and rescues Jubei. However, in the process, she is bitten by one of Benasato's venomous snakes. Before Kagero can extract any information from Benasato, Urimaru intervenes, killing her with a deadly thread. Kagero attempts to trace the thread's source, but Urimaru vanishes it with his power, leaving her with no leads. Jubei, grateful for Kagero's help, attempts to suck the venom from her wound, but she shoves him away, warning him that her body's already saturated with poison. Just a single kiss could be fatal. Impressed by her abilities, Dakuan invites Kagero to join their team. After a brief hesitation, she agrees, and they make their way to a nearby village. There, they uncover the truth. The villagers hadn't succumbed to an epidemic. The devils had poisoned their wells, using the illusion of a plague to cover their tracks. Kagero feels an eerie chill, sensing that this is only the beginning of something far more sinister. As the trio continues their investigation, Dakuan spots a swarm of bees rapidly approaching. They quickly take cover, but once the swarm passes, they realize the enemy isn't far behind. Unbeknownst to them, the bees are spies, relaying information back to another devil, Mushizu, who promptly orders an assault. Suddenly, a massive swarm descends on them. Kagero swiftly uses her abilities to fend off the attack, while Jubei zeroes in on the mastermind behind the bees, Mushizu. Demanding answers about Genma, Jubei confronts him, only to learn the horrifying truth. Genma has reincarnated. Jubei strikes, slashing Mushizu, revealing a grotesque beehive embedded in his back. Before the enraged swarm can retaliate, Jubei dives into a nearby river, vanishing beneath the surface. Thinking quickly, he lures Mushizu into the water, where his own bees turn against him, stinging him to death. Jubei returns to Dakuan and Kagero, explaining the situation and laying out their next move. As they continue investigating the village, Kagero spots Hanza standing on a hill. Overcome with relief, she rushes toward him, only to freeze in horror. His eyes have been gouged out, his mouth and limbs stitched shut. Tears well up in her eyes as she hugs his lifeless body. But before she can process the shock, a shadow looms behind the hill. Another enemy is lurking, controlling Hanza's corpse like a grotesque puppet. On a turning turning him into a weapon against Jubei and Kagero. Luckily, Jubei notices the culprit and jumps off the cliff with Kagero. They are saved all thanks to Jubei's string attached to his sword. With effort, they get back on top of the hill and find another demon named Utsutsu Mujuro, who challenges Jubei for a duel. Jubei and Mujuro's fierce confrontation spills into the dense forest. As Jubei circles his opponent, he notices something unexpected. Mujuro is blind. At first, this revelation should have given Jubei the upper hand, but it quickly becomes apparent that Mujuro's blindness isn't a weakness at all. It's a hidden strength. His other senses sharpen to a razor's edge. Mujuro anticipates every strike with chilling precision, turning the fight into a relentless struggle. However, in a rare misstep, Mujuro's overconfidence leads to his downfall, and with a swift, fatal strike, Jubei ends his life. After the battle, Jubei catches his breath from the intensity of the fight and turns his frustration onto Kagero. He scolds her fiercely for stepping into the fight, but Kagero scoffs at his concern, brushing off the reprimand. Her defiance stirs something in Jubei, who now scolds her not just for her recklessness, but for her neglect of her own well-being. Unfazed, Kagero smirks, mocking him and teasingly suggesting that if he's so curious about her health, perhaps he should embrace her himself. When Jubei, in his frustration, takes her challenge seriously, she shoves him away and struts off, leaving him stunned and annoyed. When they finally return to Dakwon, he shows them a sight that sends a chill down their spines. A sprawling enemy encampment at the port. The camps are teeming with soldiers and workers, preparing for something dire. Jubei and Kagero exchange wary glances, curiosity bubbling up. Dakwon's face gets serious as he reveals the truth. These camps are loaded with gold, mined under Genma's orders and being transferred to his ships. Jubei's blood runs cold as he connects the dots. The sheer volume of gold would empower Genma to plunge their country into chaos, seize control of the government, and drive the nation to the brink of disaster. Jubei and Kagero huddles together, crafting a plan to stop the enemy ships and defeat their forces. The tension is thick as they mapped out their next moves. Jubei leaves to scout the surrounding area, while Kagero prepares to send an urgent message to the Chamberlain about the grave situation. But just before she can set off, Dakwon, ever the perceptive observer, makes an unexpected remark that catches her off guard. He casually mentions that he has noticed Kagero's feelings for Jubei. Kagero, taken aback, immediately tries to deny it, brushing off the suggestion. However, Dakwon wasn't convinced, his gaze sharp as he assured her that he knew the truth. He then recounted the time he has poisoned Jubei, explaining that the antidote for such a poison can only be found through a surprising and strange method. Jubei's salvation lay in the embrace of Kagero herself. Confused and unsettled, Kagero listens as Dakwon elaborates. The poison in Jubei's system, he explains, could be neutralized only by another poison, and Kagero's own body was the antidote. Kagero leans against a tree, trying to process what she just heard. Before she can, Zakuro emerges from the shadows and captures her. Jubei returns to find Kagero gone and sets out to rescue her. Jubei finds Kagero unconscious in an abandoned building. As he checks on her, she wakes up and attacks him. Jubei defends himself, realizing that Kagero is being controlled. He spots Zakuro hiding in the shadows and uses the distraction to his advantage. After a fierce fight, Jubei defeats Zakuro, freeing Kagero from her control. Kagero apologizes for attacking Jubei, feeling guilty for what she did. Jubei forgives her, and they share a moment of understanding. Later, Kagero offers herself to Jubei, but he refuses, not wanting to take advantage of her. Jubei and Dakwon plan to stop Genma's ship, deciding to sink it at sea. As they put their plan into action, Kagero rushes to stop the Chamberlain, who is actually Genma in disguise. Genma stabs Kagero, leaving her injured. Jubei witnesses the scene and fights his way to Genma. Urimaru traps Jubei, but a rat enters the room, explodes, and kills Urimaru. Genma feels pity for Urimaru's foolishness. Jubei checks on Kagero, who is dying. She thanks him, regrets not being with him, and tells him about the antidote to the poison inside him. Jubei kisses Kagero, curing himself. Kagero dies, and Jubei becomes more determined to kill Genma. Jubei rides to Genma's ship, where Genma has taken control of the Dark Forces clan. Jubei and Dakwon set fire to the ship, causing it to sink. Genma orders his soldiers to abandon the ship. Jubei confronts Genma and battles him on a sinking ship filled with gold, leading to a violent life-or-death struggle. Genma's supernatural strength proves formidable, but Jubei, using all his skill, finally defeats him. The ship sinks, drowning Genma in molten gold, and Jubei emerges victorious, completing his mission. The ship sinks, and Jubei completes his mission. However, The journey is not without its toll. Kagero, having been fatally wounded earlier, dies in Jubei's arms, her final words revealing the cure for the poison within him. After her death, Jubei's resolve hardens. Genma's reign of terror ends here. He visits Kagero's grave and bids her goodbye. With her headband tied to his sword, Jubei continues on his next journey.